Happy Friday morning, everybody. Welcome into another edition of Morning Jox. Conrad Van Order and Damian Mitchell here with you. As we've made it to the end of yet another week, we've made it to another weekend. Congratulations, everybody. And this weekend you can be happy because it means you are 4 more of these away from the start of college football season. Because exactly 4 weeks from tonight will be Auburn's season opener against Baylor. 4 weeks from tomorrow, and you'll have Alabama FSU. 3 weeks from today, you'll have week 0. And last night we had the NFL Hall of Fame preseason game. So it is officially here. The calendar has now flipped to the month of August. I think that maybe is big for a lot of people. Is once you get to August, it starts to feel a little bit more like fall. I think we all agree that September is really when you start thinking about fall, especially here. I mean, it's gonna be hot for a while, but once it flips to August, you can finally feel, this is the month. This is the month. But by the time this month is over, we will have seen Auburn, we will have seen Alabama, as well as all the other teams in the country with our own 2 eyes and be able to make actual assessments of what we see. And, fall camp is great. You get to hear a little bit of rumble, a little bit of buzz here and there. You get some scrimmages, and all of that stuff is great. But, it can't get here close soon enough, and we will keep you up to date on every single thing that you need to know about both Alabama and Auburn, as well as around the SEC in the next 4 weeks as we get ready for week 1. So we have a lot to get into today, though, because as I mentioned, you did have NFL preseason yesterday. You had the MLB trade deadline, and in what has been a very difficult season for Braves fans, you had maybe the craziest Braves game, certainly of this year, but in a hot minute. And I see the look on Damian's face. He is a Cincinnati Reds fan, so I know it was
quite frustrating.
quite frustrating.
Quite frustrating.
Yeah. So we will we'll get into all that. We'll tell you what happened from the trade deadline. But some irony in the Braves game with who ultimately won them that game, being somebody that I don't think we expected to be on the roster last night when that game concluded. But nonetheless, we will start off with some football because that's what we all love here in the great state of Alabama. And I know a lot of you were probably really, really locked in for about a customary 30 minutes. And then maybe after that, you checked out once it, you got into the DJ Uiagalelei's of the world later in the game. Hendon Hooker that we'll let Damian defend his boy here coming up in just a minute. But anyways, the Chargers absolutely dominated the Detroit Lions in a game that means absolutely nothing, but it is fun to watch. But the Chargers take out the Lions 34-7. So I hope you weren't one of the people that, maybe put a little cash on that game last night, because I believe the line was like a 2.5 point spread going into the game, with the Lions being slightly favored, if I remember correctly. Yeah, or 1.5 point favorite for the Lions. They lose by 27. And let's just put it this way. Really hope Jared Goff doesn't get hurt this year, because what's behind him is not looking particularly promising. But you did have for the Chargers, Trey Lance. He got the start. Talk about a little bit of a blast from the past there. I'll be honest, I thought he was still on the Cowboys. I didn't even know that he had gotten.
Same.
I didn't know he had gotten traded to the Chargers.
I had the same exact thought.
So yeah, the number 3 overall pick from the 2021 NFL draft. He is now on his 3rd team with the Chargers, and he is the backup to Justin Herbert. But he goes 13-20, 120 yards, a couple of touchdowns, no interceptions. So a very nice showing for him last night. Only had 8 rushing yards to go along with it. But certainly a good sign there for the former first-round pick, who's still trying to, never really got an opportunity to start. He did get a couple games with the 49ers, but then he got hurt, and that kind of derailed his career. So we've never really gotten to see him a whole lot, and now working as the backup there in L.A. So a big night for him last night. DJ Uiagalelei, he goes 2 for 3 for 25 yards. I mean,
didn't have to do much. Didn't have to do really anything.
No, he didn't. Yeah, I mean, good for him, I guess.
He got reps.
I still can't believe someone gave him a chance in the NFL. But hey,
I'm the same way.
It is what it is. So we'll see if he ends up staying in LA and making this roster later on. But he was the second string quarterback last night, so I guess you would view him as the third string guy there with the Chargers right now. But how about former Auburn Tiger Keandre Lambert Smith? So he was drafted by the Chargers earlier this spring, and he had himself quite a day. So he did have a one touchdown catch, a little slant over the middle there. That was a nice little route by him, and a nice throw from Trey Lance. But we'll let you hear. This is from the broadcast last night. This is the other catch that he had last night, a 28-yarder from Trey Lance. Yeah, get to know the name. We're familiar down here in Alabama, but yeah, a big showing for him. He led the Chargers in receiving last night, 2 catches for 43 yards. As I mentioned, that one for 28. Then he had the 15-yard slant that went for a touchdown as well. Unfortunately, that one they didn't even mention his name on the broadcast because at that point they were just, I guess, kind of
they're checked out.
Yeah, they weren't even really talking about the game anymore. They were talking about the Hall of Fame ceremony and all of that. But but that was your highlight that you got to hear his name called on the broadcast last night. So Keandre Lambert Smith, a nice showing there. As well, let's be honest. All right, so Mike Williams had to retire this year, or very recently because of all of his injuries. I know they brought in Trey Harris. They drafted him out of Ole Miss as well. But this is, I have to feel like there's a real opportunity here for Keandre Lambert Smith to not only make this roster, but be a factor in this offense to some degree, throughout this season. And I think obviously that would be awesome. And we saw how good he was for Auburn last year. And I certainly think he deserves the opportunity, and he seems to have taken advantage of it so far, Damian.
Absolutely. Last night was it was great. It was a great time. It was a great thing to put on film. It's okay, we might have some depth out here at receiver. Of course, you still got Ladd McConkey out there, but also,
But that's really it. Quentin Johnson, come on. Come on.
Yeah. Trust me, even when he was coming out for the draft, and I was like, Quentin Johnson may be you may think he's a first-round talent, but I definitely do not see it. And then to see the drops that he's had since he's been in the NFL is a reason why you draft Trey Harris, Ladd McConkey, and a Keandre Lambert Smith just in case. But I think that for KLS, that was a good performance. And again, it's preseason. Like you fighting for a job now. Like now it's just like, man, how do I find a way to get on this roster?
Yep.
Whether it's, building depth at the receiver position, if I gotta be a special teams guy, so be it. Like you want to be on that 53. That's all that matters.
You're not wrong about that. So Keandre Lambert Smith, kind of the star of the show last night for the Chargers, offensively speaking, along with Trey Lance. So that is certainly good to see. But for the Detroit Tigers, unfortunately, not the best showing for them, as they only muster 7 points that they got there in the second quarter. You had Kyle Allen. He was your starting QB last night. He goes 9 of 14 for 91 yards, 2 picks. So everyone, if you're following along on social media as the game's going on, hey, Hendon Hooker time. Why are we not putting this guy in? Let's see what he's got. 3 of 6, 18 yards, and an interception. I will say, the interception they threw, it wasn't a bad ball. It was a great play.
That was a great play.
Great play by the defender. He just ripped it away. That wasn't a bad ball. But, again, limited sample size for Hendon Hooker. Maybe he completes that pass, and then he's 4 for 6 for, I don't know, that would have been about 50 yards, and you look at it a little bit differently without the interception. But certainly going back and, you look at some things and you go, maybe some missed opportunities, a couple of opportunities he had for plays down the field that maybe he just didn't see quite in time. But, let's be honest, again, he's still, I guess he's not that young anymore, but he hasn't played a lot of football in the last few years. So, I think you can expect a little bit of rust here, but definitely what you saw from Kyle Allen. If you're the Lions, I would think you might throw Hendon Hooker out there to start the next game because Kyle Allen really didn't show you anything. And he's been around long enough that,
you kind of know what you got. Like
he is what he is.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I just didn't know if that was difficult for you to watch last night with your boy Hendon.
Listen, it's you don't buy too much stock into it. I've seen the highs of Hendon Hooker, and I choose not to erase those from memory. Because listen, man, the NFL's tough.
Yeah,
you're not guaranteed anything, but in college, absolutely phenomenal. Can't tell the Josh Heupel story without Hendon Hooker.
No, you can't. No, he was very. Forever, if you're a Tennessee football fan, you will be somewhat indebted to him for, I guess, we would consider that the return of Tennessee football to what they are today and making the college football playoff. And of course, yes, beating Alabama and everything that came with that. So I know, as Damian says with a big fat smile on his face, like, oh, you know, you're not going to be a Tennessee fan in like 2 weeks, right? I mean, I guess you could be, but
It could.
that would be a major letdown if we go through all of this just for you to stay a Tennessee
Just
fan. Yeah. Yeah. Just saying.
No, but they're top 5 though.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. So that's what you missed last night in the NFL preseason game. Again, I know a lot of people, you chime in for a little bit, maybe you keep it on in the background after that, but it is the first live tackle football that we have had in quite some time, and so certainly a welcome addition. And happy to be here in the month of August, where we will get many, many more live tackle football games, and we will have that for the next 6 months. So this is a wonderful time of year, as they say. But a lot of other things going on last night as well. Of course, as we mentioned, the Braves playing maybe the craziest game, certainly of this year and of the past couple of years. You also have the MLB trade deadline and what happened there. And a little bit later in the show, we are going to go down and to Tuscaloosa and Auburn, tell you what's going on with fall camp there. We got to hear from Ryan Grubb yesterday. So we got to hear from him for the first time this fall, talking about the quarterback situation at Alabama. And I have a little bit of a question for Damian and for the rest of you about the quarterback situation, not only at Alabama, but also at Auburn. So all of that coming up. Stay tuned. Braves and Reds, if you missed it last night, the craziest game in Major League Baseball this year. We'll tell you about it next on Morning Jox. 6:16, and welcome back into Morning Jox here on your Friday morning. Appreciate you making us a part of your day each and every day here on Jox. Conrad and Damian with you till 7 o'clock. Recapping the NFL Hall of Fame game last night where the Chargers absolutely dominated the Lions 34-7, as that was our first real football game. Well, I mean, I guess, yeah, debatable because it's preseason, but you get what I'm saying. Live football game here in the fall as we turn the calendar to August. But we also have Major League Baseball going on, and you had the trade deadline yesterday, and some interesting moves that were made there ultimately. But perhaps one that wasn't made is something that, at least for one day, Atlanta Braves fans can be happy about. So last night, the Atlanta Braves took on the Cincinnati Reds, and I understand a lot of people are probably checked out on the Braves at this point. And so if you didn't watch the game last night, maybe you're watching the Hall of Fame game, maybe you were just watching Netflix or doing something else completely entirely different. This was one you didn't want to miss. So the Braves are taking on the Cincinnati Reds. So Cincinnati goes up 2-0 or 3-0 early. Elly De La Cruz hits a 2-run home run in the third inning. Then you start to see some life from the Braves as they start chipping away. So at the end of the sixth inning, it's 3-3. The game's all tied up. So we go into the eighth inning, tied up at 3, and that's when the wheels absolutely started to fall off, Damian. So the Braves scored 8 runs in the eighth inning. So you started off, Eli White has a single. You got a Matt Olson fielder's choice. Austin Riley hits an RBI single. Albies hits an RBI single. Sean Murphy with an RBI double. No home runs in the eighth inning. Just all getting guys on base and knocking them in. Just small baseball, fundamental baseball for the Atlanta Braves last night. And so they're up 11-3 going to the bottom of the eighth. Feel pretty good if you're a Braves fan, right? Like if you're watching this game still, you're man, got this thing in the bag. All right, I can go to bed. So it's 11-3 Braves. You go to the bottom of the eighth inning. And then you start getting a little traffic on the bases. And so Cincinnati hits a 3-run bomb. Now it's 11-6. Okay, we're still, 5-run lead. We're good. That's cushy. Keep getting more traffic on the bases, Elly De La Cruz hits an RBI single. At this point, you batted around in the order. So you have Hayes, who hit a 3-run bomb. He now comes back up. He hits another RBI single. So now it's 11-8. You still got a 3-run cushion. Like, you should be okay, right, Damian? Well, then you have another 3-run bomb for Cincinnati in the eighth inning. So Cincinnati also scores 8 runs in the eighth inning. If you're keeping track at home, it's now 11-11. So nothing happens in the ninth inning, of course. You go to extra innings. And who plays the hero for the Atlanta Braves? None other than Marcell Ozuna, who we thought there was no chance that this guy was going to be on the roster because he's going to be a free agent. He's going to walk after the season, and you're not going to get anything in return. But I guess Alex Anthopoulos, saw ahead into the future and said, hey, we're going to win this game tonight because of Marcell Ozuna. So Ozuna hits a sac fly in the top of the 10th. Braves come in, shut down the Reds in the bottom of the inning, and that's it. So the Braves won 12-11 in extra innings after 16 combined runs were scored in the eighth inning alone.
I see. I was going back and forth from that game to the Hall of Fame game, and when the Braves went up 11-3, I completely checked out. So I was back at the Hall of Fame game, and then just periodically I'm looking at the scores, and I look back down. I'm like, what is going on? Like, what is actually going on? So I flip it back. And, I see where Braves fans, it's a different type of frustration when you lose a game like that, where it's, all right, well, you had me in the first half. We blew a lead. Okay, it is what it is. Let's flush it and let's go back up, and we'll handle this tomorrow. But then you have the bottom of the eighth that happens, and it's like, oh, well, if we're going to do all this, we might as well come back and win the ball game. And like you said, now for the ninth inning to go, kind of just, okay. We know what, extra innings is coming. Then Marcell Ozuna goes up, and it's like, well, this was fun while it lasted. But, and also for the, no disrespect to the Braves, but Cincinnati still kind of has we still have a puncher's chance of getting into the wild card. So you don't want to lose games like this. These are the ones that you kind of have to, you got to get, because you're banking on other teams to lose as well. But I think that for the Reds, we needed that. We needed this one, at least the first game of the series, But now we're kind of, behind the 8 ball with not so many games left. So we got to figure this thing out. But congratulations to the Braves. You found a way. But it should be an exciting weekend for this series.
Yeah, hopefully so. And if I mean last night was any indication, it certainly will be. But yeah, I mean, just again, probably the wildest game in Major League Baseball this year, or one of them at least. I mean, to be fair, I guess the Braves did have a somewhat similar game against the Yankees right after the All-Star break, where they got up to a big lead and then the Yankees came back. But the Braves won this time, so that one's going to make it, I think, a little more memorable for Braves fans. So again, I know it's been a rough season. You're 16 games under 500. But at least you had last night. And if you were watching it and you actually stuck it out for the entirety of the game, you were thoroughly entertained at the very least. So, but that does take us to the trade deadline because you didn't really have any major moves from the Atlanta Braves yesterday. As I mentioned, Marcell Ozuna hits the sac fly last night. So obviously he is still an Atlanta Brave, which I understand the frustration if you're a Braves fan because you are going to get nothing in return for him at the end of the year, and you can't tell me that there wasn't some offer on the table out there for him. And maybe there truly wasn't. Like, literally, the other 29 teams all said, no, we are not going to touch Marcell Ozuna. But I find it hard to believe that you weren't going to be able to find some trade partner to at least get a little bit of a return on your investment before he walks at the end of this season, as it's been stated that he's really not going to have much of a role for the rest of the year in this Braves offense. So that seems like a little bit of a miss there by Anthopoulos, but I guess it's just kind of par for the course for the kind of season that has been going on so far. But the big news out of the trade deadline, and this was rumored for the last couple of days, but so it was rumored. Then we were told that the two parties were pretty far apart in their negotiations, and then ultimately the deal does get done. As the Minnesota Twins just kind of, they traded 10 of their 26 rostered players in the last handful of days. That's almost 50% of their 26-man roster. And a big part of that was Carlos Correa, the former superstar for the Houston Astros, as he goes home to the Houston Astros. And so that's a deal where the Minnesota Twins are also going to eat $33 million out of his 104 remaining dollars. He has 3 years left on his deal. Yeah, they signed him for big money, and it just hasn't really worked out for them. And the Astros have an injury at third base, and so they're going to try to shift some things around with their infield, bring home Carlos Correa, and hope that he can be the Carlos Correa of old when he was one of the very best shortstops and one of the best players overall in the game of baseball. So that was kind of the big splash you had yesterday out of the trade deadline. But other than that, nothing particularly crazy. I mean, Eugenio Suarez did get traded a couple of days ago. That was the other big one. And the Padres went and got Mason Miller, one of the very best relief pitchers in the game, from the A's yesterday. So all in all, kind of, I don't want to say it was disappointing because there were a lot of moves that were made, just not a lot of big flashy, splash moves with big name superstars or anything like that attached to them outside of Carlos Correa, that being the big one. So that's what happened yesterday with the MLB trade deadline. But quickly, we do have some trade news potentially in the NFL as well. If you missed this, as Terry McLaurin has requested a trade out of from the Washington Commanders. So he's a former Ohio State receiver. And has developed into one of the very best receivers in the NFL. And last year, you really got to see that because he finally had a good quarterback in Jaden Daniels. And now, you brought in Deebo Samuel, you've got Terry McLaurin, you've got some other dudes. And just when it seems like everything's all sunshine and rainbows, the Commanders are set to go. And maybe they even make it to a Super Bowl this year. We saw how far they made it last year. And now your star wide receiver wants out because they can't come to terms on a contract agreement. Who knows if something gets done? If you're Washington, I think it's probably in your best interest to find a way to, search through the couch cushions, find a couple extra pennies that you can put together for Terry. But some potentially big news there, as I've seen the Tennessee Titans as a team rumored to be a potential landing spot for him if he does get traded.
I would be ecstatic. I really would. Pair him up with Calvin Ridley, got Van Jefferson, as a solid number 3. You already lost Traylon Burks. It does seem like an ideal spot for a young, promising quarterback to have some real weapons out there to throw to, and Terry McLaurin and Calvin Ridley. That's a lot of speed.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll put it like this. we would win the AFC South if he came. If he came to Tennessee, we would win the AFC South.
Oh, okay.
Because the only team we got to worry about is Houston, and we could match that firepower. I know we could. So Terry, if you're hearing this, I know that you're up early in the morning trying to get your workout, and you pop on Jox down here in Birmingham, Alabama. If Tennessee calls, make it happen.
Well, there you go. Damian has spoken, so maybe Terry McLaurin going to be a Tennessee Titan here this upcoming season. But that was the big news out of the NFL yesterday, outside of the Hall of Fame game going on, of course, last night. But we did have day 2 of fall camp for both Alabama and Auburn. So not necessarily the same takeaways because, again, you get a lot of the same stuff for the first couple of days. There's only so much you can take away from guys running through, individual position drills and, quarterbacks throwing against air, things like that. But we did get to hear from Ryan Grubb, the offensive coordinator of Alabama. So we'll let you hear some of the things that he had to say about the quarterbacks at Alabama. And I just kind of want to have a general discussion what the expectations are for both Alabama and Auburn and those quarterbacks this upcoming season, because we have a lot of question marks, but I think we all agree that both of those teams have a lot of talent around the quarterback position to where if Ty Simpson's a hit, if Jackson Arnold's a hit, or whoever's under center for those teams, they have a lot of potential this upcoming season. So we'll talk a little bit about the quarterbacks and what we think that could look like this upcoming year for both Alabama and Auburn, as well as let you hear from Alabama OC Ryan Grubb next here on Jox. 6:32 here on Morning Jox. Happy Friday. Appreciate you tuning in. Conrad and Damien here with you until 7 o'clock when we hand you off to McElroy and Kublick in the morning. And yesterday was the second day of fall camp for both Alabama and Auburn. So we got to hear from Kalen DeBoer and Hugh Freeze earlier in the week, but now yesterday down in Tuscaloosa, got to hear from Ryan Grubb, who I know a lot of people are very, very excited about what he is bringing to the table for the Crimson Tide this year. Maybe he was the missing piece from last year. And we will see how it turns out on the football field. But he, of course, was going to be asked and talk about the quarterback situation. We all expect Ty Simpson's going to be the guy when Alabama plays Florida State in 29 days. But we'll let you hear from Ryan Grubb and what he had to say about the quarterback. So we'll start off. Ryan Grubb asked yesterday, when would you like to have a starting quarterback named for the upcoming season? Yeah, so not surprising. I mean, obviously, he's an offensive coordinator. You'd love to know who the guy is already and have that kind of ironed out. I think we all know that there's a lean towards one player in particular, but he's got to be consistent throughout the fall. And so, how about a comparison of the three quarterbacks? Because you have Ty Simpson, Austin Mack, and Keelan Russell all have different skill sets. So, how does Ryan Grubb differentiate and compare the three quarterbacks? So there's Ryan Grubb comparing, kind of talking about the skill sets of all three of the quarterbacks. And that's, yeah, about what we know about. Again, nothing new there, but just kind of getting his insight into that quarterback room. And then finally, his final comment on the quarterbacks. He was asked, what does Ty Simpson or one of the other guys need to do in fall camp to secure that QB1 job against Florida State? So there you have it. Got to do it each and every day, which is exactly what you would expect your offensive coordinator to say. Not a whole lot, nothing crazy there. But I think again the general expectation is that Ty Simpson is going to be the guy. And we talked about this briefly on Three Man Front because Pat said this, and I guess I hadn't really thought about it this way. Maybe we just trust coaches a little too much, but. Does it actually feel like it's a quarterback competition for either Alabama or Auburn right now for you, Damien? Because I think for definitely not for Auburn for me. I think we were really set with Jackson Arnold on that one. But, I thought maybe in the spring it was a quarterback battle for Alabama, but everything you've heard since then has been Ty Simpson first. So do we really buy into the fact that there is an actual quarterback competition going on in Tuscaloosa right now?
Not necessarily. I think it's more of, is Ty Simpson separating himself to prove that he is the number one guy? Yeah. I think the coaches have a feeling that, yeah, he's going to be the guy, but has he removed the doubt? Like, has he, and again, no disrespect or no shot to Austin Mack or Keelan Russell. It's, well, he's been here the longest, and he's also being pressured by two very talented guys who are capable of being starters. But has Ty truly separated himself of like, no, this is my job. I'm carrying myself as QB1. And has he won the locker room yet? Like, has he won everybody over as far as, and you heard Coach Grubb say, like, the command is there. Like, it's, okay, he's growing into being QB1, where I think there's an expectation of, okay, well, maybe a throw here and there, or maybe it's like a hesitation thing of, okay, has he really just won it? Has he really just won the job of just like, all right, hey, we appreciate Austin, we appreciate Keelan, everything that y'all have, maybe just not right now, but has Ty Simpson truly just said, like, has he given you the vibes of it's his job to lose? Like, is it truly like, oh, I'm just going out here doing my job, or is it I am QB1, not looking over my shoulder?
Well, and I guess that's where, in my mind, I guess there's a difference in taking the job and being awarded the job, right? And what I mean by that is, okay, you could be the best option, but in a maybe we're kind of splitting hairs here type of situation, but you have the most experience, so we're going to roll with you, as opposed to taking the job, which is leaving zero doubt that you are that dude. And as long as you are healthy, you are going to be the quarterback. And that's like Damian was saying with, having to look over their shoulder. If you are Alabama, and the same thing goes for Auburn and Jackson Arnold, you don't want Ty Simpson, you don't want Jackson Arnold to go out there and let's say, week 3 or week 4, they don't have a great game. And, the next week, then you're going into it with, well, is it time for Keelan Russell to come in? Is it time for Deuce Knight to come in? You want them to have secured the job and to be at a spot where, okay, yeah, everyone's going to have a bad week every now and then, or a couple bad series, whatever it may be, but where the immediate reaction isn't, who's the next guy up? Because, that's how Auburn has existed for the last couple of years. That's how Alabama existed a lot of the games last year, right? Really, once you got past the Georgia game or maybe Vanderbilt, that's where it really felt like it started to turn. And it was every single week almost. It was, all right, Jalen Milroe just made a bad play. He just turned the ball over. When's Ty Simpson coming in? All right, Peyton Thorne, he continues to turn the ball over, not make great decisions. All right, when's Hank Brown coming in? Hank Brown started a game last year in the SEC for Auburn. So it's you want that sense of security, not only for the quarterbacks, but just as a fan watching, right, that this is our guy moving forward, and the whole team is bought into that. And I don't, Auburn certainly hasn't had that in a few years, and I don't know if Alabama totally had that last year. They certainly didn't in the back half of the season. And so I think that's really what you're looking for from both of these guys. And, the good thing, in my opinion, for both Jackson Arnold and Ty Simpson is that the rosters around them are good enough to where it's almost the point guard mindset, right? Not saying that you're going to try to be a game manager, because we know both of these guys are talented enough to be more than that, but it's about taking, we heard it from Kalen DeBoer the other day, the gimmies, right? That's what you want both of these guys to focus in on, is making the easy reads, the easy throws, take what the defense gives you, instead of trying to be Superman every single play, and every single play needs to be a touchdown, right? Because I think last year, for Alabama, for example, right, what was a criticism we even had early on in the year? It was, man, you score too fast, right? Like, you're either going 3 and out or you're scoring in 3 plays. And that's it. Like, you didn't see a ton of, sustained drives from the Alabama offense, because it was pretty boom or bust. And so while you still want to have the explosive plays, there's no doubt about it, you also want to be more consistent, and you want to be able to control the clock and things like that. Those are big factors of the game. Same thing goes for Auburn, right? I think that's a lot of the frustration that comes in of, man, we're at the end of an Oklahoma game. We've got the best running back in the SEC, but yet we're throwing the ball and it turns into a pick six and we lose the football game. Like, why are we not using what the defense is giving us, what the game situation is telling us to do, and run out the clock with Jarquez Hunter? And I think that's where the frustration comes from. And now that you've upgraded at the quarterback position, you hope that the offenses as a whole will operate at a much higher level and just be more consistent and do the fundamental things right.
Yep. I agree with you 100%. And when you look at just, the Auburn situation, it's okay. And we've had this discussion many times. It's how many years will we continue to say, like, Auburn's a quarterback away?
Yeah.
Well, now with Jackson Arnold, yeah, like, the situation happened at Oklahoma, completely unfortunate situation, but now you're in a whole different place. Now, with everything that the coach is trying to instill is confidence. So I think the biggest thing for Jackson Arnold is just between the ears.
Mm-hmm.
Like, nobody's worried about, the talent, because everybody can see that he's a very talented quarterback. Now it's, okay, is he going to make the right decisions? Is he going to continue to, because to me, especially for both quarterbacks, the pieces that you have around you are so elite that you almost have to find a way to mess this up. Like, you have to find a way to mess this up for like especially for Auburn's situation where again, like you have to have that, you have to be a point guard essentially. It's okay, it may not be pretty, it may be a duck, but by God, I am getting the ball to Cam Coleman. I don't care how I got to do it. Eric Singleton, here you go. So it's the distribution of the wealth for these quarterbacks, and it's like you heard Kalen DeBoer yesterday of like take the gimmies, like no, don't try to force something into a tight window.
Yep.
Take a calculated risk, but also you can't go broke making a profit. Like if your running back's down, if you've gone through your progression, you got to check down, take it.
Mm-hmm.
That's 7 yards that we're now, instead of 2nd and 10, now we're 2nd and 3. We can deal with this. Like now we can really open the playbook and see where it can go from there. And similar to Auburn, it's okay, Jackson. All else fails, you have the ability, use your legs. If you can find a way to give us 4 to 5, so be it. But I think a lot of the situation for both quarterbacks in their respective quote unquote competitions, it's between the years, and you really won't learn anything as far as like 7-on-7 and shorts and things.
No.
When they put the pads on,
Once we
that's
get to
when you start to separate and say, all right, now Ty, I like how you went through your progression and you gave us a 4-yard gain. We'll take that.
Hey, guess
we
what?
find ourselves in 2nd and medium as opposed to 2nd and long.
I was about to say, you guess what? You get 4 yards every single play. No one's ever going to stop you. You're going to march down the field every single time if you can get 4 yards every single time that you snap the football. So we want to hear from you, though. 205-834-9450. That'll get you on the courtesy text line if you want to chime in with what are your thoughts on the quarterback situations, maybe what you've heard, some of the buzz from both Alabama and Auburn fall camp for the first couple of days. But yeah, we just like to hear from you. What are your expectations from the quarterback position? Are you very confident in the Ty Simpsons and Jackson Arnolds of the world? Or are you still kind of in wait and see mode with those two quarterbacks here in state? 205-834-9450. Again, get you on the text line. 1-800-239-9569 will get you on the hotline, and we will hear from you guys next, as well as I got to see something pretty cool last night. I know a lot of you maybe have been in attendance as well. I'll tell you what that was and tell you a little bit about an experience involving Alabama football last night. That's next on Jox. 6:49. Welcome back in. Friday edition of Morning Jox. Talking a little bit about Alabama and Auburn fall camp. Got to hear from Ryan Grubb and just kind of our general thoughts on the quarterback situations down there on the plains as well as in Tuscaloosa. And we're excited because in a couple of weeks we're going to get to see each or a lot of you in person and talk a little ball, Damian.
Absolutely. Celebrate the kickoff to college football with us at the Bill Smith Buick GMC Jox Kickoff Party at Regents Field on Thursday, August 21st. And the only way to go is by winning tickets. To win a pair of tickets for you and a guest, text the keyword WIN, W-I-N, and your full name to 205-834-9450. The keyword is WIN and your full name to 205-834-9450. Winners are drawn and notified daily. For more information, visit joxfm.com.
And we can't wait to see all of you out there in just over or under 3 weeks. 3 weeks from yesterday, actually, is when our kickoff party will be. So that's always a big time. But I did quickly last night. So I went and with my entire family, they had bought tickets. And I know some of you probably were out there last night, going to go this weekend. But Nothing But a Winner, the Bear Bryant and Nick Saban movie, has come out in theaters. And it was funny last night. Again, I thought the movie was very entertaining. If you're a fan of, even if you're not an Alabama fan, but you're just a college football fan, I think it's certainly something that's worth a watch. I'm sorry, it was very funny last night going to the theater and realizing that 90% of people in that movie theater probably haven't been to the movies in a decade, and trying to watch them figure out how to pull tickets up on their phone, how to order concessions off of the touch screen. I mean, my mom was, like, how early do we need to get there so that we can get a good seat? I said, what are you talking about? She said, well, we don't want to be like in a bad seating area. We want to get seats together. I said, Mom, you bought the tickets. There are signs like you pick your seat when you buy them now. Did you not remember that? And I forgot about that. I was like, you bought the tickets. But it was just it's a cool movie. I know a lot of you going to go out and see it this weekend. It was absolutely sold out. It was packed last night. I think they had. I went to the Summit. They had like a dozen showings yesterday, so I know a lot of you can do that this weekend. But I did get a kick out of seeing all the people that showed up, and it's like haven't been here in a while. I can tell that, but no, it's a cool movie. If you're a college football fan, I think it's.
Did it reignite your passion as an Alabama fan?
Sure.
Oh,
sure. No, I mean it's cool, and you learn. I mean, I'll be honest. Like there are some things that I learned, and people that you've heard about that you get to hear speak about their role, and it goes a lot into the integration of the program and what guys like Wilbur Jackson and John Mitchell and what they meant to not only Alabama football but really the civil rights movement, and kind of just making a statement, and how Bear Bryant just kind of a cool look at him scheduling that game against USC is kind of a way of saying, hey, we're going to bring this team in here. They're going to whoop our butt, and this is going to be a message to the state of Alabama that things need to change. And I think that right there just goes to show you what kind of a man that Coach Bryant was. But it was cool. So if you're a college football fan and you need something to do this weekend, highly recommend you go and check that out. But want to get some of your reactions. We've been talking about quarterbacks and other things in fall camp for both Alabama and Auburn. And we'll go to the phone lines real quick. Alan in T-Town wants to chime in. How we doing, Alan?
What's up, gentlemen? Good morning. How are you?
Doing well, doing well. So what you want to talk about?
Hugh Freeze's comment this week about DJ Durkin's defense has and will through fall be continued, asked that they take it easy on Jackson Arnold because it is key that the quarterback leaves practice every day confident. Is he going to walk off every series of every game confident? I mean, that's a big ask considering the competition that he's going to play against. Yeah. Just wanted to get you guys' opinions. Love the show. See y'all at the kickoff party.
Sounds good, Alan. We appreciate it. Yeah, Damian definitely took issue with that yesterday, and I did as well, but Damian really felt a certain type of way about those comments. And I mean, I just said, I think that confidence needs to be earned on the field, right? You shouldn't be given it. You need to earn it.
It shouldn't be manufactured.
Be confident because you played well.
Yeah, and the emotions of just playing the position of quarterback. Like, some days it's going to be rough. Like, it is. It comes with it. Like, you can't. again, everybody's like, oh, you take it out of context. It's like, no, well, he said this. Like, he said this out loud that he's going to tell his defense coordinator, like, hey, okay, I get it. Like, I understand the purpose of drills.
Mm-hmm.
But also, like, don't have him throwing in windows that, oh, because we had to tone it down, that's why that's why he's ripping that.
Yeah.
So when the bullets are flying live in a game and he sees that same coverage, it's like, oh, I fit that in there, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday at practice. Well, Saturday, it's a little bit different. Like, it's a little bit different. So I just think that it can be kind of an Achilles heel. Like, it can work in both directions of, all right, well, now he's a little overconfident that he thinks he can fit this in a window. And then also it's, okay, why are we doing this? Like, why are we throwing these certain passes? So
yeah, no, I think that's spot on. And someone chimes in, they say on the text line, well, Hugh Freeze can't throw the quarterback under the bus now because, if he struggles, you kind of set him up for that. With the that kind of strategy, I guess you would call it, for practice. Let's see. John chimes in. He says, think about this. Auburn was 5-7 last year. The Cal, Arkansas, Oklahoma games, heck, even Missouri were games we gift wrapped, and those losses were based on poor quarterback play. That's a 4-game swing. That competency alone gets a W, 9-3, but ended up 5-7. Well, we will see if they can take that and run with it this year. Don chimes in. On Jackson Arnold, I'm cautiously optimistic. With the talent around him and a good O-line, he should be fine. Have a good weekend, guys. Appreciate it, Don. Appreciate all of you chiming in. We're back Monday. McElroy and Kublik in the